I was in the military, and so when you're wearing the bulletproof vest, when you're geared up, you feel like you're wearing a suit of armor and you're invincible. And when you put this on, you have that testosterone going, you're ready, and you have an enemy, right? And these people hate you. They want to hurt you. So what's the response? You want to hurt them back, right? You start hating them. And so it just becomes this hate-fueled battle where you just want to hurt each other.
Wow.
And I don't think good for anybody.
It sounds like the playground of demons. Welcome to Cloud of Witnesses Radio. All of you probably, unless you're living under a rock, have heard about the Los Angeles riots going on right now, the response of the government to deal with those things. My name's Jeremy.
I'm Mario.
We're Orthodox Christians, and we think it's important to talk about these types of things, to see what is an Orthodox response, what is an Orthodox perspective on these types of issues. So, Mario, thanks, because you brought this up to me, and I think it's a great topic. Maybe give me some of your initial thoughts. Like, what does this mean to you?
I mean, it's important. It's important to me, especially as I come from an immigrant family. And I have a lot of friends, that come from immigrant families. I have friends that are undocumented as well. But I also was in the military. I have friends that are police officers. I have friends that work in the government. And so I think it's important to remember that both sides are people. I think I understand the passion and the hurt, that these people feel. But I think it's important to understand, like, that passion isn't an excuse to hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, on either side.
On either side.
I 100%. Mario, you have a very unique position, which is you really do see it from both sides. I think that's a fascinating background of having, coming from I'm a Hispanic myself, not first generation or anything, but certainly I understand that side of it as well. And I do have a ton of respect for people who have to uphold our laws, who have to put themselves in harm's way, to, defend this country, defend cities, defend property, etc. And yet we live in a country where we have the right to express our disdain, our anger, our feelings, our thoughts to our government. Shouldn't include violence ever. And that's when, sometimes you have to kind of up the ante. But you said something very important. You said you need to see the person, right, on the other side. As Orthodox Christians, we are told again and again, and it's one of the beautiful elements of our faith, is that we are created in the image of God. We are the icons of God, right? Yes. We ourselves are individual icons of the image of God. And that's a wonderful thing. And that's not just me, and it's not just people who agree with me politically. It's everybody. And tell me, Mario, because we were talking about this a little bit earlier. You were explaining how you used to wear the uniform.
Yeah.
You used to, and you said tell us about that, how that made it hard sometimes to see the other side.
I was in the military. And so when you're wearing the bulletproof vest, when you're geared up, you feel like you're wearing a suit of armor and you're invincible. And when you put this on, you have that testosterone going, you're ready, and you have an enemy, right? And these people hate you. They want to hurt you. So what's the response? You want to hurt them back, right? You start hating them. And so it just becomes this hate-fueled battle where you just want to hurt each other.
Wow.
And I don't think it's good for anybody.
It sounds like the playground of demons.
Yes.
To be honest with you. Yes. It's an issue, it's a question that people talk about, which is, have we over-militarized our law enforcement, right? You see there's law enforcement now, regular small town cops who have AKs, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, that's not the point, but you make a great point, which is that feeling of you've got this invincibility. Can't help but thinking about the armor of God in comparison to an armor of Kevlar, right? And the difference there, and how one, if I'm hearing you correctly, maybe all too easily can breed feelings, thoughts, divisions that shouldn't be.
And something about that is that if these weapons, these armor isn't used, you're going to lose the funding for it. So if it is used because of the escalation of the violence that's happening, then the police is more justified in being able to order more. So the opposite effect that these protests want is what the police are getting.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, because you hear it in the military, like use it or lose it.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that the police works the same way, 100%, and the federal government works 100%. The same way. 100%.
You get a budget for the year. If you don't spend it all, what's the response? Oh, I guess you don't need all that money then.
Exactly.
Right? But Mario, hit that point home because that's fascinating. So people who are in support of, or let's just say maybe another way to put this, people who are not fans of the ICE extraditions, of these roundups, etc. They, of course, historically generally have a distrust for government, have a distrust for law enforcement, these types of things, right? We're talking about political lines that are common.
Yes.
Doesn't describe everybody, but are common. Their very actions, the violence, the National Guard was called in.
Yeah. The Marine Corps.
2-7.
Yeah.
Was called from 29 Palms, yes, right?
Yes.
Yep. Is there now.
Yes.
Right? Guys are, door kickers, right? Yes. They're there. You're saying that's actually going to give the law enforcement, the military, even more reason. They can be like, remember 2025? Remember when you needed us?
Exactly.
We need this tactical, and again, I'm not saying they don't, but it's an interesting issue.
Yes. And
it's an interesting contrast.
Multifaceted. There's a lot of people, a lot of different parties. We have ICE, federal government, probably the FBI, the Marine Corps, protesters, like state police, tons of players all in this battle.
Absolutely.
So it's important to see what's going to come of it. I think what's important is that we make sure that we're praying
100%.
For everyone that's involved.
100%.
Not just the people on the ground, but the higher ups too, that are making all of these calls.
Right. Something I want to touch on, Mario, is, again, from an Orthodox perspective, and thank you for bringing us back home to, it all comes down to prayer. It all comes down to our own place. I'm not responsible for the actions of our government. Mm-hmm. I'm not responsible for your actions or political beliefs. I'm responsible for myself before God. I'm responsible. I'm accountable to my family, to my spiritual father, etc., to our church. We are called to love our neighbor. We are called to love our enemies, right? One thing that really is driven home to my mind and heart when I see these types of conflicts, as I'll just say it, I tend to be a bit more on the right when it comes to political views. But I believe as a Christian, we are not to be cold-hearted and mercenary and just, you're here illegally, you're out of here. My heart breaks for families. I too have a lot of friends who, and I've worked with over the years. I worked in the restaurant industry for many, many years. A lot of people may or may not have been documented properly, etc. These are good people working their butts off, oftentimes 2-3 jobs to support their family.
Yeah.
They're not here. They're not criminals. They're not trying to hurt anybody. Some of these people are being rounded up in these ways. Now, at the same time, Mario, I understand we have to have laws, need to have order. There needs to be a process for becoming a citizen, etc. These are the tough issues, that I see, and that I pray for God's mercy and grace to hopefully understand them with humility. And may God, through his church, help bring some change. That's why we're talking about this right now.